In 2015, everything about tennis felt right. The matches had rhythm, the players had variety, and the surfaces still demanded different styles. Clay was slow, grass was fast, and hard court sat in between. Rivalries had real weight, and every title meant something. There were no shortcuts, no identical games, just pure competition. It was the year when tennis still had balance, the last time the sport felt complete, the best season. The year 2015 opened with everything in sync. The surfaces still had personality. The rivalries felt alive. The gaps between players meant something. It wasn't yet a numbers game or a contest of who could survive the longest baseline rally. There was rhythm in the sport, a balance between aggression and control, and the calendar still carried weight. The men's field had an order. Novak Djokovic stood at the top, but not untouched. His precision was unmatched, yes, but others still carried belief. Federer had reworked his style, cutting points short, taking the ball early, using the new larger racket to stay modern without losing his touch. Murray had his range back, and Wawrinka, the late bloomer, still felt dangerous in any match that started even. Each final felt different because the matchups had personality. There wasn't a copy-paste structure to every rally yet. In Australia, it started the way a great season should, with tension. Djokovic's command met Wawrinka's raw power again, a sequel to their bruising previous duels. The result wasn't just about who hit harder, it was about who could adjust, who could hold nerve when rallies turned into patterns. Federer fell to Seppi in a shock loss, reminding everyone that even the greats could bleed early. Murray's run carried familiar grit. By the end, Djokovic's victory felt earned, not inevitable. The women's side mirrored that sense of balance. Serena Williams was still the standard, but she wasn't untouchable on autopilot. Maria Sharapova, Simona Halep, Victoria Azarenka all could push her deep when rhythm slipped. There was still variety in styles. Different players brought different ideas to a match, not just topspin forehands from both wings. Serena's title in Melbourne came with visible strain, coughing, battling fatigue, yet she still found the extra gear. The field respected her dominance, but it wasn't yet submission. The Tour. By spring, the men's game hit clay, and the season's balance showed again. Rafael Nadal was still dangerous in Monte Carlo and Madrid, though no longer automatic. His game was physical, yes, but also psychological. Each point still an effort of control, not just grind. Djokovic had started to figure out the angles, the bounce, the way to play him without panic. Their meetings on clay that year weren't about youth or age, they were about precision. Federer stayed relevant through smart scheduling. He avoided unnecessary clay battles and aimed at the faster surfaces. His partnership with Stefan Edberg had reshaped him into something new. Shorter points, aggressive movement, trust, and instinct. He wasn't chasing the game, he was redefining his pace within it. On the women's side, the variety deepened. Carla Suarez Navarro carved through clay with that one-handed backhand, still a rare sight. Petra Kvitova reminded everyone that left-handed flat power could still take out anyone when timing clicked. Timea Baczynski's run in Paris brought craft and placement back into conversation. You could still win without overwhelming speed. The centerpiece? Then came Paris. It always tells the truth about a season. The men's draw had storylines that didn't need headlines to matter. Djokovic was unstoppable by then, taking out Nadal in straight sets, something almost unthinkable in that era. He didn't overpower him, he dismantled him with patience and length. But what made the tournament great wasn't just dominance. It was how the balance shifted again when Stan Wawrinka arrived in the final. That match wasn't about rankings or form, it was about shot tolerance and courage. Wawrinka's backhand, the purest strike of the decade, tore through rallies that should have favored Djokovic. He found depth with impossible precision, and the match became a demonstration of how power and timing could still outthink patterns. That upset didn't just decide a trophy, it reset the idea that the sport wasn't yet locked into predictability. Serena played through illness, exhaustion, and pressure, yet won Roland Garros for the third time. She wasn't flawless, but her resilience was real. Lucy Shafajova pushed her in the final with clean, brave hitting. That final was everything tennis used to be. Two players throwing everything at each other, no coaching boxes, no analytics dictating decisions, just pure feel. By the time the tour hit grass, the contrast between eras started to show, not because things had changed yet, but because this was the last time they hadn't. The bounce was still uneven. The points were still short. The crowd still gasped at a clean volley. Federer's game made perfect sense here. Flowing movement, controlled aggression, one of the last masters of forward play. His semi-final against Murray was textbook precision. He hit 56 winners and only 11 unforced errors. That wasn't luck. It was discipline on a surface that still rewarded skill. Djokovic's eventual victory over Federer in the Wimbledon final was the highest technical quality the sport had seen in years. The control, the serving placement, the shot tolerance, it was all pure execution. But more importantly, it was human. Federer had chances. Djokovic blinked at times. It wasn't robotic dominance, it was mastery within margins. Serena completed the Serena Slam, holding all 4 majors simultaneously. Her win over Muguruza in the Wimbledon final wasn't smooth. It was about controlling chaos. Muguruza's rise was another highlight, a reminder that new faces could still break through by playing bold, not safe. She attacked lines, went for it, and earned respect doing it. The state of rivalries? Every rivalry in 2015 had definition. Djokovic versus Federer, control versus artistry. Nadal versus Djokovic, topspin versus precision. Murray versus Federer, defense versus creativity. None of them were repetitive because the surfaces reshaped their meetings. On clay, one could dominate. On grass, another could. The game still gave you reasons to think a matchup could go either way. On the women's side, Serena versus Sharapova still carried edge. Sharapova's losses didn't erase her impact. She was still the only one who could meet Serena in physical intensity. Azarenka, when healthy, pushed matches to their limit. Kvitova's unpredictability made every draw interesting. There was still variance in outcomes, not a pre-written script of who would reach every semifinal. The game before the change. The summer swing arrived with intensity. Hard courts meant cleaner contact, faster decisions, less room for hesitation. The men's field entered the stretch with clear hierarchies but open possibilities. Djokovic led, Federer adapted, Murray chased, Wawrinka lured. Nadal was fighting through inconsistency but still capable of brilliance. Every match carried something worth watching. The heat tournaments, Montreal, Cincinnati, still had purpose. Federer returned to hard courts with a sharper edge. He debuted his SABR, that sneak attack return that blurred the line between risk and calculation. It wasn't a gimmick. It was a signal that creativity still had room in the modern game. His performance in Cincinnati was near flawless, defeating Murray and Djokovic back-to-back without dropping serve. Precision, movement, anticipation, all tuned perfectly. It was the kind of form that suggested the old guard wasn't finished yet. Then came New York. The final major of the calendar always sets the tone for how a season feels in memory. The men's draw carried storylines that didn't need hype. Djokovic's year was already dominant. Multiple Masters titles, 2 majors. Federer had reinvented himself mid-season, finding a way to stay aggressive without playing reckless. The rest of the field was capable, but chasing shadows. In those 2 weeks, the city gave the sport its most electric atmosphere. Federer's path to the final felt like time bending. He dismantled Berdych and Wawrinka with ruthless precision, winning in straight sets, moving like someone half his age. Each match reminded the crowd why tennis could still be played, fast, clean, and without hesitation. Djokovic's route wasn't easy, but it was inevitable. He beat Bautista Agut, Cilic, and Lopez with quiet authority. There was no showmanship, just efficiency. When the final arrived, the setup was perfect. Federer at full flow, Djokovic at peak control. The match itself represented the sport at equilibrium. Federer attacked constantly, charging the net 67 times. Djokovic absorbed, redirected, and countered with length and accuracy. The rallies had structure, not chaos. Points were built, not improvised. Federer had 23 break points and converted only 4. A stat that defined how small the margins were. Djokovic won in 4 sets, but it didn't feel one-sided. It felt like 2 philosophies meeting. Risk against restraint, instinct against calculation. That's what tennis used to be at its best, balance without sameness. After New York, the calendar moved indoors, and the tone shifted again. Conditions were quicker, points shorter, reactions sharper. The men's circuit still had fuel left. Shanghai, Paris, London. Djokovic swept through most of it, his consistency reaching absurd levels. But even then, it didn't feel mechanical. He still needed to adapt to different surfaces, temperatures, and opponents with varying shot patterns. The variety of court speeds made dominance impressive, not automatic. Federer's performance in the indoor season stayed elite. His Basel run was clean, full of attacking intent. In London, the ATP Finals brought the year's best together one last time. Federer and Djokovic met again in the final, another duel of discipline. Djokovic won in straight sets, securing the most complete season of his career. 3 majors, 6 masters, the year-end title. Yet none of it felt overexposed or predictable because the structure around him still offered resistance. For Murray, the year closed with stability. He ended as world number 2, carried Great Britain to a Davis Cup title, the country's first in nearly 8 decades. That run alone captured the spirit of the season. Tennis still felt collective, national, personal. Each event mattered differently. On the women's side, the season wound down with a mix of fatigue and breakthrough. Muguruza finished strong, qualifying for the WTA finals and signaling what would come next. Radwanska won that event with clever play, slicing through opponents with variety. Her success was proof that intelligence still had a place in a sport increasingly leaning toward power. Every tournament that year had a different rhythm, proof that surface, conditions, and styles still shaped results. The season ends? By season's end, tennis had symmetry. Djokovic stood clearly as the best, but not without opposition. Federer, at 34, had reinvented his game and proved longevity could be creative, not conservative. Nadal's downturn was real, but human, not decline, just the cost of years of grinding excellence. Murray had steadied, Wawrinka had matured. The field beneath them was deep and competent. There were no empty draws, no hollow semifinals. On the women's side, Serena's dominance coexisted with unpredictability. Every major carried tension because even at her peak, she could be challenged. That sense of vulnerability made the results meaningful. Younger players like Muguruza and Bencic had begun to shape the future, while veterans like Panetta closed careers with clarity. 2015 represented the end of something subtle, a natural order. After it, surface speeds leveled out further. Coaching from the stands became normalized. Points grew longer, physical tolls higher, seasons denser. The individuality of the sport began to narrow, but in that single stretch, tennis was still complete. The men's game had its hierarchy without losing tension. The women's side had its superstar without losing unpredictability. Every major carried its own tone. Melbourne's heat, Paris's clay grind, Wimbledon's quiet precision, New York's noise. The differences mattered. The sport wasn't perfect then, but it was alive. Matches had character, variety, surprise. The crowds reacted to skill, not just endurance. Tactics and creativity still had equal room beside power and fitness. Players adjusted to the sport, instead of the sport adjusting to them. It was the last season where everything, structure, surfaces, rivalries, variety, worked together without excess. A year that still felt human before optimization took over. A season that balanced dominance and unpredictability in a way no year since has matched. Tennis kept moving after 2015, but the balance was gone. Styles merged, surfaces slowed, and variety faded. That year stood as the final snapshot of everything that made the sport great. Skill, risk, and contrast. 2015 wasn't just another season, it was the last truly great one, really.